Joined today by Peter Bates, US Fund Manager from T. Rowe Price. And welcome to Australia, Peter. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about your own background?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be here. I've been at T. Rowe Price 19 years. It's really the first job I took coming out of business school. I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School in 2004. Before going to business school, I had a couple jobs, one in investment banking and one really working for a company doing partly investor relations. And that's really where I realized, like, man, I really want to go back to school so I can transition and be an investor. Okay. And it would be wrong to mention that I've been married 27 years, and I've got 3 kids that are now all either out of college or in college. And so I am very much looking forward to empty nesting.
Fabulous, excellent. And certainly Wharton is where all the top flight of fund managers come from in the US. It's famous for that, is it not?
It's a very good school. I was fortunate to get in. I had a great experience, and it definitely helped prepare me for the success I'm having now.
Good. Now, just bringing it back to recent performance, 2022, very difficult year for global markets. How did you navigate that? And you ended up with outperformance. So maybe talk us through how last year went.
Yeah, thank you. Well, part of it is sometimes you wonder, am I lucky or am I good? And frankly, I'd rather be lucky than good, because we all know how life just throws you curveballs. Sure. And we basically got thrown a big curveball in early 2022 when Putin invaded Ukraine. And I remember doing some work and some research with various politicians and people who had left various administrations to get their views. And frankly, all those historical views were wrong. And I remember specifically one person saying, we firmly believe that Putin is not rolling tanks into Kiev. And that turned out to be really wrong. I think that had massive implications for structural inflation and disruption around energy, commodities, as well as just geopolitical events, because when the world is kind of harmonized and working together, it really can create deflation. But that ended, I think, with the war. Sure. And now we've seen all the geopolitical tensions continue, and those are structural forces that I think lead to inflation. So frankly, I underperformed the first quarter, and I had to do really some soul searching. And part A was admit I was wrong and that the world was changing, and so I had to make some changes. And I probably changed about 10 or 15% of the portfolio. And the other decision was redoubling and deciding where do I stick to names, and it might be down 25, 30%, but I believe in the company, I believe in the uniqueness of the growth, and even though I've taken a valuation haircut from maybe 35 times earnings to 25 times earnings, I now think the risk return is really good and I need to stick with it. Yeah. And fortunately, I was able to pivot and make enough good decisions, both with what I kept and what I decided not to keep, and things recovered, and I had a very good Q2, Q3, Q4.
Yeah, you certainly did. And I described your style of portfolio this morning to Shaw and Partners clients as an all-weather portfolio, because effectively you put a lot of pressure on yourself. You're effectively trying to deliver performance or outperformance against the index in all market conditions.
Yes.
So you're not a momentum trader. You really, how do you maybe balance the portfolio, and how do you walk through that process?
Yeah, I appreciate the term all-weather. I use the term no excuses, because I've been around long enough and I feel like I've heard people make excuses like, who could have seen the global financial crisis happening? Yeah, sure. Who could have predicted that? Or who would have thought this was going to happen? And frankly, as a portfolio manager, it's my job to think about those things, and it's my job to prepare for them and in a way hedge that risk.
Yes.
And I don't know, I just think it's important to do that to deliver sustainable performance for clients, because part of what you're paying me for is not just upside, but risk management. And so, I don't know, I very much believe in it. I very much believe it can be done. And I think the 2 main factors I have to watch are cyclical tilt as well as factor tilt. And the factor tilt is around growth factors, whether it's momentum or growth, and value tilt around inflation or interest rates and moves in commodities. And by balancing those 2 kind of drivers, I do believe I can create a portfolio that is driven by stock performance, not a bet on the economy or a bet on interest rates or a bet on growth or momentum.
So you're not just simply making one-off bets on the next macro position?
Definitely not.
Yep.
I definitely will lean into cyclical risk. And another statement I like to use is take cyclical risk when you get paid to take cyclical risk.
Yes.
If you own a cyclical stock and it's priced for a really good outcome, it's kind of like, what are you playing for?
Sure.
And so I try to avoid that. And with my industrial background, I think I have a lot of experience in pricing cyclicals, and there's cyclicals all throughout the economy, whether it's banks, other financials, obviously industrials, commodities, energy, materials.
Can I ask you a couple of questions about maybe some underlying stocks from within the portfolio?
Sure.
I'm a big fan of Netflix Drive to Survive,
Yeah.
and obviously Formula One globally very large, and perhaps in the US not quite as big as some other sports, but an area of growth for the future. So that's owned by Liberty Media Corp. Can you just walk us through the strategy for investing in Liberty?
Sure. I own a concentrated portfolio, and I talk about owning 30 to 40 of the best ideas and doing it in a way that manages risk. And most of the time when I look at a name, and if you look at the holdings that I have, if I'm intellectually honest, I say, well, I might own this company, but if I owned this other one, it would be okay.
Right.
That's not true with Liberty Formula One, because it's really a tremendously unique asset. And the way the stock, frankly, was first pitched to me by our analyst, Chris, is he said, imagine you could own a professional sports team and you controlled all the naming and media rights to that franchise. That's what you get with Liberty One. And I was like, wow, that sounds pretty good. And on top of that, we've had some other idiosyncratic drivers. A, they've been simplifying the business because they do own some other small assets that they're currently in process of spinning out. But B, they're really taking the sport global. And you mentioned the US, how the sport is not very popular, or it historically has not been very popular in the US. They're working very hard to change that, and they're making significant progress. And as eyeballs grow, media contract rights grow, and right now they've got a very cheap deal with ESPN that I expect at some point in the next several years will be repriced significantly.
And it's a huge market.
It is a huge market, and key catalysts. We have 3 races now: Austin, Miami, and Las Vegas will be the first race in Vegas this November. And that race sold out so quick, and the expenses, the cost to get into that race. I actually looked at buying tickets to take my wife, and I decided I should spend the money somewhere else.
Another big theme that investors are facing at the moment is artificial intelligence, and it would really seem at the moment that the entire world is in discovery phase on AI and how to play that investment theme. But what are you doing within your portfolio?
Yeah, it definitely is a big investment theme, and while I talk about offering balance around cyclical and factors of growth and value, I definitely want to invest where you have tailwinds.
Yes.
And there are definitely tailwinds and investment dollars going behind AI. So I want to be exposed to the companies that are benefiting from that. And frankly, right now, I see the most opportunity in terms of the clear winners that benefit without risk of disruption from the arms dealers. And so that's a stock like ASML that is really the only company that can make the high-end machines needed to make the advanced nodes of semiconductor wafers. And then it's TSMC, which there are other foundries that can buy the equipment from ASML and make the chips, but I think TSMC is years ahead of competitors like Samsung and Intel. I think in the future, it might be more clear which software companies best integrate AI into an offering that sells to consumers or businesses. And right now, Microsoft is talking about integrating AI into all their corporate software and then raising prices to corporations because it makes the software more valuable. I think that definitely has merit. I just think it's less clear who definitively wins in that game, where there's nobody else that does what ASML does. It's a virtual monopoly, and TSMC has a significant lead over its competitors. where I think those are safer bets.
Yes, thank you. And you're certainly one of the best performing fund managers that I've ever met. And but you're also physically one of the tallest. You played basketball in college, I believe.
I did.
So I wonder if I could ask you maybe more of a long, short question. So for this NBA season, who would you back? Who would you be long, and who would you be short as the season develops?
Well, wow, you caught me off guard. So I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan.
Okay.
In my background, I didn't mention, but I did play Division I basketball for Southern Methodist, which is in the heart of Dallas. I've left Texas, but part of my heart is in Texas, and I love that my daughter is a freshman now at SMU, and I'm a big Dallas Mavericks fan, and I think Luka Doncic is one of the top 5 players in the NBA, and though the team had a disappointing year last year, they have a chance to be a contender. So they are my long, and my short is, this kills me to say it because I love the team, but it's Golden State.
Okay.
I think age is catching up with them, and I am huge, Steph Curry, Draymond, and Klay Thompson fans, but I just feel like, Father Time is knocking on the door, and it's going to be hard for them to outrun it.
Well, they've got a big fan base certainly here in Australia. And lastly, you finished pretty much in the very top echelon last year under Morningstar ratings, and so performance over the last 12 months has been tremendous. But how do we invest with you?
So this is a foreign market for me. I know I have a couple vehicles. I am not confident I could clearly describe those vehicles. I would prefer to ask for some help here.
Sure. Okay. Well, look, a bit of a loaded question there for you, I suppose. But yes, we have 190 advisors with the Shaw and Partners network. Your fund we have taken on board recently within our separately managed account facility. So talk to your advisor here at Shaw and Partners. But Peter, thank you indeed for joining us here in Adelaide on your tour of Australia, and for the next few days. Best wishes indeed.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.